Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to be talking about the second Exodus. This is going to be in addition to the other video I did. It was, I guess I would actually say this would be a continuation from the other video I did a couple months back. I suggest you check it out if you haven't watched it already. Exodus means a large number of people leaving from where they are currently are living. The Exodus is also the second book in the Bible and where the word Exodus is mainly tied to. So the book of Exodus, for people who may not know, covers the first Exodus, and I recommend reading it, which was the departure of the Israelites from Egypt. Now, the Israelites were treated as slaves in Egypt, and Yah, being the name of our Elohim, Elohim in Hebrew meaning God, sent Moses to rescue them. But the Pharaoh prevented Moses until Yah sent plagues upon the Egyptians. Finally, the Pharaoh ended up letting them go. And Israel ended up wandering in the wilderness of Africa until they reached the promised land of Israel in modern day Ethiopia and Eritrea, where they had to fight in wars to take the land, which they eventually won. The second Exodus, like it says here on the page, is what is currently happening right now. We are living in the second Exodus. That is the people of Yah who have been scattered to the four corners of the earth are currently being oppressed, treated as slaves. As I said in one of my other videos, we traded our chains after slavery ended for an employee ID card or an employee ID number. Now we just live on the modern day plantation, which is much different due to social engineering and different types of mental brainwashing and media propaganda and a lot of mental conditioning that's happened to our people. So that right now we're living in a matrix. If we can wake up out of the matrix, we would see that we're still living on that same plantation that our ancestors lived in. So nothing's really, I mean, things have modernized more so than changed, so that we could be able to be pacified to accept living in the conditions that we are in right now. So now this, as I said, this period of time that we're in is the second Exodus. And the people of Yah, now we see, which I'm going to highlight, we saw it during the Year of Return 2019, which was on the United Nations page. Ghana released, I think, a website for it. 2019 to mark the 400 years from the moment that the first slave ship arrived in America. Now, we see that marked from that period, you had people, Israelites, leaving to Africa. However, unfortunately, there is no Moses this time. Instead, in Revelations 18:4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." It directly says for us to leave, or else we will be a part of the plagues of destruction, meaning that you get up, pack your things, and leave. There's no giant hand out of the sky that will pick you up, because if there was, the Bible would not say, "Come out of her, that you receive not of her plagues." So how can you be affected by plagues if you're going to be protected by staying where you are? So now that the 400-year curse over the Israelites is over, which started in 1619 when slaves arrived in America and ended in 2019, we saw that 2019, what happens? COVID-19. COVID-19, coronavirus 2019. It's a sign of our exodus. Obviously, we know that there were already Israelites that had been leaving out of America prior to 2019. But 2019, more so, it marks the fulfillment of Genesis 15:13. Right now, we know that as long as our people live in the conditions that they're in right now, they're going to still undergo the Deuteronomy 28 curses, connecting it to Genesis 15, whereby the Most High tells Abraham that his descendants will be oppressed in a foreign land for 400 years. That period of time is over. Now marks the time whereby our people are leaving out And now we're moving on to the next stage in the prophecies, which I have laid out here that I'm going to explain. As I highlighted here, you have the first major event of the second Exodus, which is entering the wilderness, which is in Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 32 through 38. And then the next part, which is entering the Holy Land, which is in Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 42. And it's also mentioned in Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 22. You can find these two periods referenced in different chapters and books of the Bible. But I want to go ahead and highlight these two so that we can be able to break it down. We can understand how to fulfill the prophecy. So here I have Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 32 through 38. Starting off, it says, "And that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all that ye say, we will be as the heathens, as the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone." Now, I want to break down every verse. And for this one, we see even in this time and age, people still practice pagan and idol worship. And the worship can be something that you may not even realize off the top of your head, like, okay, the pagan and idol worship this could be referring to could be people that believe that they are worshiping Yeshua because they feel that portrayals of him on the cross, such as this portrayal, keeping this image with you is not a sin. Where we could see in Exodus 24, it says, "Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth." So we could see even stuff like this is idol and pagan worship. This is not only things like this, but you also have people practicing it, in the manners that we obviously would sometimes come to think of, people practicing voodoo, utilizing wooden and stone figures to practice witchcraft and other forms of pagan worship. But as I said, this is just something that is still prevalent in this day and age, and it's taken on modern forms to make us become again more pacified into believing, okay, well, this isn't bad, this isn't how they used to do it back in the day, and it's not realizing that it's the same thing. It's just a modern spin on it. And that's what this is referring to, is that in this day and age, even though it's prevalent, the people are going to start to awaken. It's going to be an age of awakening, which we are in right now, where people are going to start putting away the pagan worship. They're going to start putting away all the Babylonian lifestyles that is keeping our people from becoming closer with the Most High. Now, it says in the next verse, "As I live, saith Yah, our Elohim, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you." Now, when it says with surely with a mighty hand, with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out will I rule over you, that is basically meaning that right now we know that we are living in the land of captivity. So we are being ruled over by oppressors. The oppressors that are ruling over us are the Gentiles. And these Gentiles have an allegiance with wicked spirits, principalities, and as we know, some people call them the Illuminati or so forth, but whoever these shadow entities are, they work on the side of Satan. Now, you cannot serve two masters. So who is going to rule over you? Are you going to let the side of Satan rule over you? Or will you be ruled over by the Most High? I prefer to be ruled over by the Most High. But as we live here in the land of captivity, as you know, I never like doing it, but you know, even during school, you sing the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag, the flag of Babylon. That is who we pledge our allegiance to. You make your oaths to, you swear your allegiance to, and you do it over and over again, whether it's taking an oath of office if you're in political positions, or you know, taking it's some form or fashion. You constantly putting your oath and your loyalty towards Babylon. Not only that, but as we know, when we were born, we get a birth certificate. And this certificate is almost like a receipt or a commercial instrument that the government has with us, saying that basically we are their property. That's why when you go to get your birth certificate, sometimes you go to the county clerk, but that same office also keeps deeds towards property. So this isn't just affect just obviously the Israelites. This is just in regards to all humanity. This is the system of Babylon, the world governing order or of the world basically. Now, you know, it hasn't always been set up in this form of fashion. There's been things where it's changed and it's been, like I said, modified to keep people complacent. But the main point, because like I said, this is to talk about the people of the Most High, is that we are through our lives signing contracts, whether it's going to medical appointments, whether it's getting a job, doing this, doing that, or the other. We're constantly signing contracts. We are constantly trying to be brought under oath over and over again. It's just that's just that system of Babylon that it uses to assert its rule over us. There are different sites where you could look it up. You know, they got sites like Keys to Liberty too, where they talk about things about the birth certificate. And it's just, again, it's important to understand, you know, it not everybody that may watch this video may be living in the United States. They may be living in other areas, but again, it's all the same because as it says it's the definition of a certificate. I'll post a link below if you want to check out the site. I haven't read everything, all the articles on the site, but it does have some good information. That's good to know. Like I said, it's always good to examine, cross-examine, do your own research, study to show yourself approved. But you know, it does have some, like I said, good information, interesting, thought-provoking article. This is an interesting, thought-provoking article to really open your mind, your third eye. And it's again good for the people because you know you have a lot of people that say that this isn't the land of captivity. And as you can see just reading through this, you'll see that yeah, you know, we're still in the land of captivity. And it, like I said, and I always say it, you know, the captivity isn't just America. We look at America because of, you know, the industrial military complex and its founding, but it's not only just America. It's whether you're living in Brazil, Australia, even in Africa. You know, it's global. Babylon is a global order. All of the world has committed abominations and whoredoms with the harlot and with the beast. But like I said, our goal is to reach the wilderness of the people and then to enter into the land of Israel, which, as we know, is in northern Ethiopia. But again, like I said, I just wanted to highlight that just to provide some clarity of why it's saying that with fury poured out will I rule over you, meaning that we are going to renounce our allegiance, our citizenship, our ties to Babylon. And we see this, we could find this also even in Isaiah 5 where it says, my righteousness is near. It's near. My salvation is gone forth, and mine arm shall judge the people. The isles shall wait upon me, and on mine arm shall they trust. And um we know that this is talking about now near these in these days, because it says lift up your eyes to the heavens and look upon the earth beneath, for the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment, and they that dwell therein shall die in like manner. but my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished. We see this in Revelations, which is the last book in the scriptures. 21:1, it says, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea." So this is how we know that Isaiah and also Ezekiel 20 are talking about events that are to come that have not been fulfilled yet. Some events, in obviously in Ezekiel and Isaiah, have come to pass already, but these events that right now we're talking about has not come to pass, have not been completely fulfilled yet. I mean, so like I said, this is how we know that this is in the very last days that this is referring to. Now it says in the next verse, it says, "And I'll bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, and with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out." Again, we see the fury poured out because, as it says, of all the abominations of Babylon and the whoredoms they have committed, that they even try to put on us, injecting their agenda, whether it be the agenda, the LGBTQ agenda of homosexuality, whether it be the agenda dealing, and we know how what the Most High said regarding homosexuality, where people will try to whitewash and say, well, in the New Testament, we have to love everybody. But even in the New Testament, we see Romans 1:26-27, "For this cause Yah gave them up unto vile affections, for even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet." Yet we see that the LGBTQ agenda is constantly trying to force itself into the black community, where you can watch just so many different black shows nowadays, and they have some LGBTQ in it, or it's got gang violence, it has murder, just people cursing out each other and calling each other the N-word in the rap music industry, talking about killing, having guns. It's just This is just what Babylon tries to do. And again, it's global. Whether you see child soldiers in Africa, it could just be just so many different things. Putting drugs and on Native American indigenous reservations to get the indigenous people wrapped up into drugs. Again, with the same thing with the CIA implanting cocaine and destroying black groups, like people like Fred Hampton. His death led to pretty much, they played a major role in destabilizing Chicago and starting different types of black gangs. So again, this is that wrath that is talking about, because the wrath it's a just wrath. It's a righteous anger for what's been happening to his people, and just the abominations they have just been committing in the earth. So that's why it's with fury poured out. For what they've done to what they've been doing, blasphemy against the earth and killing his people. I mean, obviously we know that we were punished, but the Gentiles just took it to a whole nother level. So that's what it says, "And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out." The Most High is opening several channels. Now, one channel that maybe not a lot of people might know about would be the Year of Return. Now, the Year of Return, 2019, it was talked about throughout the diaspora, such as, I believe, 2015 to 2024. Let's see, actually, hold on, United here. African diaspora decade is 2015, yes, through 2024 is the international decade for people of African descent. Those are the people living outside, people of the diaspora, mainly most of them being Israelites. See, we don't even know that this is their decade, but they'll disguise it. They don't want to talk about it, But again, this is just obviously the Most High is putting out so many different things to help wake us up. They called it also the year of return, Ghana 2019, 400 years later from when African Americans arrived in America. We see, as I talked about earlier, I talked about it with the 400 years from the arrival of from the arrival of the first ship containing Israelites that were being taken against their will, 1619. And as it said in Genesis, they will be afflicted the people for 400 years. 400 years we will go through Deuteronomy 28. Now we know, like I said before, that this isn't just after 2019 kumbaya. No, as long as we're here in the land of the captivity, we're going to still continue to go through the oppression. But the 400-year curse is over, whereas now we're transitioning to the time of the Exodus. Although diasporans have been repatriating prior to 2019, now is the time where the other prophecies we're going to start seeing being now is the time when the other prophecies are going to start to unfold before our eyes. And now is the time that we have these signs happening with COVID-19 happening 400 years right after. As it says, like I said right here, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues." Again, it's telling you, okay, the 400 years are up. It's time to come out. There's no longer a reason for us to stay in the land of our oppressor. Obviously, I I'll say this in a way because I know obviously you have some people that in our communities that are very fortunate that the Most High has blessed them with to have retirement savings, or even if they're not retired, they just saved up enough money that they can relocate to Africa and begin the journey to the Holy Land. Not everyone, obviously, in our communities are fortunate enough, but during the year of return, there was a lot of programs that were available, such as the God Box tours, and they're still available. But unfortunately, as we could see, it's to Ghana. And if we look at the Ghana U.S. Embassy site, this is a .gov, so it's legit. It says right here when we look up vaccine requirements, is proof of vaccination required for entry? Yes. All persons 18 years old and above arriving in Ghana will be required to provide evidence of full vaccination. And we know this shouldn't really come as a surprise because Ghana itself is a commonwealth of England. And again, England, we know played a part in the slave trade. And we know Ghana, you have people that were there that were descendants of sellouts that had sold Israelites out to the Gentiles. We know that Ghana, I'm not going to say that, we can expect any more from them, is basically what I'm saying. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that despite them putting out the whole year of return, they went ahead and they did this backstab betrayal because, as I said before, well, I don't know if I had mentioned it, but if we look at COVID-19, if we look at it's a woman, and I highly suggest people, if you never heard of her, look her up. A woman by the name of Henrietta Lacks. Her DNA or her cells is immortal. It's an immortal line. It still continues to stay alive, and it's used throughout um, virus and vaccine research and the whole biological field of study of immunology came from her cells. So from her, there's a whole field of scientific research, and as we can see right here, Henrietta Lacks, science must right, historical wrong. I don't want to get too much into it. I'll just go ahead and give you a summary of how she was an Israelite woman who was killed by her doctor. And when he found out, when he looked at her DNA, because she was just going to get an examination done, and he saw how special her cells were, and that normal cells normally would have a very short lifespan after they are removed from the body. her cells continue to live. They're an immortal cell line. It even says right here, an immortal cell line. And it is the oldest and most commonly used human cell line. From this woman, they took her flesh, her DNA, and they used it to create different types of vaccines, of which they're used in the creation of the COVID-19 vaccines, which are used globally. Now, we know, probably throughout her life, we've probably been having her cells injected into us when we went to get different vaccines when we were young. But again, the 400 years are over. There's no need for us to be forced to have to take these things. Having our own people's DNA and flesh injected into us? No. The Most High will take care of us. There's so many other regenerative medicines and cures that are out there. If you look up Dr. Sebi, and you have other people that have found up numerous cures and alternative medicines, but yet, again, that's just Babylon. They rather inject our people's flesh into them and into their own people. If you personally want to take that, that's on you. But again, as the people of the Most High, we need to be getting away from this. So we see that this is why it says with fury poured out, because the Most High has several channels for us. Whether it's the people among us that do have the resources, they need to play a bigger part. They need to be the people like Joshua who went into the land of Canaan to scout it out and to bring good report, to start helping people in the process of getting established in Africa. You need to have people that are willing to get boots on the ground, that are going to help us build up a haven for people who do not have a lot of resources, so that when they come, there could be some sort of establishment so that they can have an easy time getting settled. We need to do this as a community. So the whole reason why it's fury poured out is because there's so much injustice going on. The channels, a door may be open and Babylon will try to block it, but they can't keep blocking it because the Most High is going to continue to open up new channels for us. And again, it's going to. That's why this is where it brings us to the next verse, where it says, "And I'll bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face." I want to break down each verse, but I want to read this next verse to go along with it, because it's important to see the similarities and also the contrast. Because it says in the next verse, "Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith Yah, our Elohim." Now, when we look at what happened to the Israelites in the wilderness, they wandered for a period of time to a certain number of men and women. A certain number of people passed away who were not going to be allowed to enter into the Holy Land. But we see that, obviously, we know that Egypt is in Africa. Now, it says that, and this is something that I've also been trying to overstand, because when I looked at it originally, I just looked at it from the point of view, okay, so it's giving you that to understand that there's going to be a second Exodus, but this Exodus is going to be an Exodus to Africa. However, one thing that I wasn't really paying attention to was the wilderness of the land, but the second Exodus was referred to as a wilderness of the people. Now, there is still going to be an Exodus to the land. We see that and I'm going to skip a little bit ahead, but if we look at Exodus 20:42, it says, "And you shall know that I am Yah when I shall bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for the which I lifted up mine hand to give to your fathers." So for people that may be jumping up and down saying, "Oh, well, we don't have to leave where we're at, we could stay where we're at." No, because it says we will be brought into the land of Israel. What I'm saying is important to understand right here is that where we're at right now, obviously we know that there's still a large amount of people in the diaspora living in the land of captivity. And not only that, but even you have Africans themselves who are not actually living in the Holy Land, because the true Holy Land is in Ethiopia, northern Ethiopia, Jerusalem being in an Axum. So since the destruction of Jerusalem, Israelites in Africa are also scattered outside of the Holy Land. But what I want to highlight is the fact where it says the wilderness of the people. Now, what I've come to start realizing is that our mind is attached almost to like a server. And when I say a server, what I mean is a collective hive mind where we are one with the Most High and also one with each other. We're all together. We're all one world. You have different worlds, and I'm going to pull up Webster's dictionary because it also gives you an interesting definition. When we look at the definition of world, it has different definitions. But one of them we see where it says a distinctive class of persons or their sphere of interest or activity. Now, when it talks to the about Israel, it says, let's see. When we look at 1 Peter 2:9, it says, "But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should shew forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light." Now, some people take that as that just being Christians, but we know it's also referring to the Israelites, and this is something we see too. I'm going to connect that with. In Amos 3:1-2, it says, "Hear this word that Yah have spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up from the land of Egypt, saying, You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities." Iniquities being the evils that we have done. And as we have just talked about, we are coming out of that period, and we're thereby fulfilling Genesis 15:13, but also entering the period of the 14th aspect, how it says we will come out with many possessions and goods, basically many substances. I'm loosely paraphrasing. This is something, like I said, you could read in Genesis 15:13-14, but actually let me pull it up. Right here where it says, "And he said unto Abraham, Know of a surety that thy seed, that the family, the peculiar treasure, shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years." Again, we just read that in Amos 3:1-2, where it talked about how we will be punished for our iniquities. So we are afflicted for that period for 400 years, which again we talked about. Being the year of return, 400 years from 1619 to 2019. Now it says, "And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substances." People will look at substance in different ways, but again, we know that, like it says right here, that that nation, it can also be, when we look at the nation, a nation can also be more than just a singular, because this was translated from Hebrew to Latin, Greek, English, different languages. But we know that the transatlantic slave trade just didn't bring Israelites to just America, one nation. It brought them to South America, the Caribbean. We also have the Arab and I think Asian slave trades, which brought Israelites into India and other places. Pacific Island slave trade for the Pacific Islanders. Aboriginals were slaves. So we know that this is more than one nation. But in a way, they're one nation in how they all came together under an allegiance to come against the people of the Most High. So again, we see that verse, but now, like I said, I want to make sure that everything ties in. Is that when we look at let's see, going back to Ezekiel 20, the wilderness of the people, as I said, with the world, with that peculiar treasure, with that family, the Israelites. So we are in one server, one mind. So the wilderness is that mind, that collective mind that we share, that is also connected with the moderator being the Most High, Yah, our Elohim. So it's saying, and I'll bring you into the mind of the people. And this mind is almost in a way kind of, I'll say, empty. It's empty, it's uncultivated. That's why it's described as a wilderness. Because when we also look at the meaning of wilderness, wilderness is a tract or region of uncultivated or uninhabited. It's also looked at as being a confusing multitude or mass. So even though it's a large number of people, it's just obviously just different random uncultivated thoughts. But we are tied to that one moderator, the Most High, who has us in that world because our activities are interconnected. What we do as a people is very important to how things are going to play out according to prophecy. So that's what I'm looking at now as being the wilderness of the people. So when it's saying, and I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face, I'm looking at it as something that's almost in a spiritual world, whereby almost like a out of body experience where people will be able to, almost like how some people say they felt a presence, or some people I've been talking to, they've been having a lot of REM sleeping moments. Those are rapid eye movement. In those periods of time, it says your body emits a lot of DMT, which people use or say is associated with astral projection, out of body experiences. When you die, your body releases a massive amount of DMT, and is also towards, having enlightenment and transcendental experiences. So I know this is a little bit, higher conscious reasoning right now that I'm talking, but I feel like this is what this true awakening is. It's having to deal with the pineal gland, the third eye being open. That is where we're going to have that spiritual experience, because when we look at the prophets, a lot of times when they're speaking with the Most High, they're brought into visions or into dreams. This is in Numbers 12:6. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, Yah, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. So you see the visions, dreams, and when it says him, it's plural, referring to both male and female. Because we know when we look into Acts, it talks about how, and it shall come to pass in the last days, again, these are the last days, saith Yah, I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters, male and female, shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Again, the men aspect, that's also dealing with male and female. So basically, what do prophets do? Prophets prophesy. So that's what I'm saying. It's all related. When it's talking about these last days, this will happen. That's what I'm talking about. This is referring to. I'm using the word third eye. I know that's sometimes kind of thrown out there a lot, with certain metaphysics and stuff like that. People hear the third eye and all these other different terminology and phrases, but there is a true mystical experience that I believe that this is referring to, that is going to really kick off the second Exodus. Even though it started in 2019, it was to help wake up some people that were already sort of awakened in a way, but not completely awakened, but it was to help get them up. And again, we saw them starting programs and stuff like that. But the experience that's really going to hit home is going to be this period whereby we were brought into the wilderness of the people. Because as you can see, it's that this mystical experience is going to be far beyond the year of return, because it's going to come directly from the Most High, as it says, so will I plead with you, saith Yah, our Elohim. Plead, when we look at that word, can also mean judge. There will I judge you. And we see this when we look at in the 37th verse, And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. So this is when we look at the word the rod, this is something that we see in the book of Isaiah, and it's authority, it's rule. In Isaiah 61, it talks about the rod, and in Revelations, it also talks about rod. The child that was born um, was lifted up into heaven and given a rod of iron to rule the nations. So again, that's there we see rule over you with fury poured out, the rod being authority that we will fall under the sovereign authority of the Most High. And that's what it says, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. So in this 37th verse, as we discussed with the rod representing the sovereign authority of the Most High, his kingdom, the kingdom of Yah, there is none higher than Yah and his kingdom. There is no other kingdom that is greater than the kingdom of the Most High. So as it says, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant, the bond representing an agreement. Now, we talked about how we sign oaths and we have our birth certificate attached to the United States of America. If you're living in America, if you're born in America, if you're a citizen under America, then you are under the bond of their covenant. And the same thing will go whether you were born in Puerto Rico or you were born in South Africa, wherever, however you put it. These countries, you still are fall under the bond of the covenant of Babylon, the New World Order. So this is saying, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. So when we look at the meaning of the covenant, you have league, treaty, allied, and alliance, constitution, ordinance between monarch and subjects. Okay, all right. So here we see a monarch, a king, a kingdom. Also could be looked at as an empire. And then you have the people that live in the empire, the people that live in the kingdom. So now, this to just help us break down and understand. Now, this is where I was talking about how we will be renouncing our alliance to the nations where we have been scattered into. And when we break that bond with Babylon, we will be falling under the rod, the sovereign rule of the kingdom of the Most High. And we will be brought into the bond of the covenant with the Most High. So that covers us becoming independent and emancipated from Babylon and coming into the kingdom of the Most High. And then in the 38th verse it says, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. I'll bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am Yah. So now, I also want to touch a little bit again on the wilderness part, because this again it's all connects. Now, when it says, and I will purge out from among you the rebels and them that transgress against me. Now, this applies in two ways. For instance, we see that there have been people from the diaspora that repatriated, that likely still kept their Babylonian ways, and that were not willing to completely emancipate themselves spiritually. That they weren't fully committed to emancipating themselves from Babylon spiritually, mentally. However, even if they are physically separated from the continent, again, like I said, still being in Africa, that doesn't change anything. So altogether, they haven't completely emancipated themselves spiritually and mentally from Babylon. They still have the same vices that they were doing, and they're not ready to completely become one, that theosis, as I discussed in my other videos, with the Most High. So you see them, they'll repatriate, they'll have videos, vlogs of their experiences in Africa, and then they start talking about how they're not sustainable eventually. It could be a week, it could be months, it could take years, but eventually they end up leaving back to Babylon. They end up leaving back to America or wherever. The point is they're never fully established. So you see that on one hand, those people that are purged, that they're not able to find peace. And then on the second side, you have people that are coming into Africa, but the purging of that rebel is themselves. And I say that in a way to where you can come into the land of Africa and you start having all of these mystical experiences, and in that path you come to, on that journey, you come to know yourself, seeing yourself face to face as a shadow, almost confronting that the evil that is within you, purging in your way your own selfishness, your own ego, that and resisting that kundalini serpent and overcoming it. That is the purging of the rebel that is within you. Because as it says in Revelations, let's take a look. It says in Revelations 13:18, here's wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast. For it is the number of a man, and his number is 600, threescore, and six. Basically, that would be 666. So it's saying that that same number of the beast is the same number of a man. We know we are created, when it says man being humanity, we know that obviously us being humans, we are man. Whether you are a female or a male, we all came from Adam, a man. So that same evil is present within all of us. So when it talks about in Ezekiel how will purge the rebel, and I will purge out from among you the rebels, it's referring to as well the rebel that is within us, that beast that bucks at trying to follow the laws of the Most High, whether it's coming up with excuses or just coming out with reasons to just follow the path of the wicked. It is going to require that purging, that cleansing, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional, of us in order for us to enter into the Holy Land. Because as we read here, it says, I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am Yah. So, in order to enter into the land of Israel, it will require us to know ourselves. You hear some Rastafarians say, know thyself. As it says, and there will I plead with you face to face, is going to require us to know ourselves, to come face to face with who we are and confront that aspect of us that we have not come to know, but soon we shall know. So when I say wilderness, as I said before, the wilderness is like a server, it's our mind, a world. I want to get a little bit more into that. Let's look at the Hebrew meaning for wilderness. Let's see. Alright, so when you go to wilderness, it uses the word midbar, and they say that the word is synonymous with desert. So when we look at wilderness, it says it's synonymous with the word desert, which means it's, the definition can go hand in hand with desert. And it's also, like it says right here, can also be synonymous with mouth or speech. And then it uses the word Elohim. And this is interesting because for the people that have watched my previous videos, you would know that the Hebrew word for God is Elohim. So we see Elohim is speech or utterance. Now, when we look in Exodus, when it says, let's look at this word. Now, when we look at Exodus 20 and pull and the second verse, when we look at Exodus 20, chapter 20, when we look at Exodus chapter 20, then the second verse, it says, I am Yah, your Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Now, I'm saying Yah or Elohim because, as we know, that's the Hebrew word for God. And the name of our Elohim is Yah. Now, when we look at the word Elohim, the Hebrew word for God, you will see that Elohim is very similar to the word that we had just looked up, where we had looked up the word wilderness, and we found the word can be synonymous with Elohim, which is utterance. All of this going hand in hand, and it's similar, and we also know there's a direct connection because even when we look at the Genesis, chapter 1, it talks about how the Most High said, and Elohim said, let there be light. This is something we can find just in, I'll have to pull up Genesis chapter 1. Let's see. It says, and Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light. So, right there is the speech, which leads to the creation, and there was light. We see this again in John 1. Let's look at that. It says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. So we could see that there's a connection between speech, word, and Elohim, God. And we see this, as I said, through the word here when it refers to wilderness. So there's a direct correlation between this wilderness and the connection through speech or utterance. But where does speech and utterance, where does that start out at? It starts in the mind, to be able to construct the words, the organs of speech. You look at obviously people may think of the throat, but the true utterance comes from the mind and then springs forth out of the mouth through the organs that allow us to produce the sounds. So when we look at this word wilderness, it also brings me to another chapter in Isaiah, which is Isaiah 51:3. It says, for Yah shall comfort Zion. He will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yah. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody. So we see that this place, like it says right here, the wilderness like Eden and her desert like the garden of Yah, is that right now it's an uncultivated, empty place, this mind where we're at, because as we know, a lot of our people have not fully awakened yet. So it's an empty place right now. It's still uncultivated, uninhabited, like when we looked at the word of the wilderness. But at the same time, it's still the server because it is in that region, that area, that we are able to, I guess the best word would be manifest. We can manifest in that area or transport our consciousness and our intellect into that world, whereby we have the full connection with the Most High, being the moderator over that world and over all other worlds, but that being the direct world where we can make complete connection with the Most High, as we discussed in the verse dealing with how the Most High appears and communicates to us through visions and dreams. That dream world, or that world where it references as being the wilderness of the people, is actually the location whereby we can commune with the Most High. And again, communicate, that utterance, that speech is there that we can receive those abilities that are inherent within us, abilities of performing miracles and all these things that people may refer to as like extrasensory powers and superhuman abilities. It's from there that we can acquire those abilities to awaken that latent potential that is within us. But we must get into the wilderness for the people to receive that. And also purge out the rebel, overcome the resistance of the Kundalini serpent that is within us, that beast. So that then we could pass under the rod into the bond of the covenant and enter into the land of Israel, the physical land of Israel, which as we know is in Ethiopia, northern Ethiopia, Axum specifically being the location of Jerusalem. You have to overcome the serpent and overcome the beast and, be in that area to commune with the Most High, receive those powers. Thereby that, now you could connect it in. And all of those things together, that reflects Isaiah 61. Isaiah, and all those things together, that reflects Isaiah 51, where it says, Yah shall comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of Yah. Joy and gladness shall be found there, and thanksgiving and the voice of melody. Because as we know, what is in Eden? The tree of life. So it's telling you that all those things have been transported into the wilderness of the people. That world right there holds the tree of life, which grants us immortality. It holds all those things that is in us, in our potential, locked within us. It holds the key to us awakening our true potential, unlocking all of those true abilities that are within us. And that's what it says, like Eden, because remember how Eden was paradise, a garden of Yah. So all those things, and we see those things being fulfilled in being talked about and fulfilled in Revelations 21, and people being able to eat from the tree of life. So we see that transformation. But like I said, all those things we can also see in different books. You can find them referenced in Isaiah, you can find them referenced in Ezekiel. And they all expound upon different aspects that may not have been expounded in one area. So it's important that we are able to see that interconnectedness. But like I said, that is the meaning of the wilderness of the people, the true meaning of it, going beyond just the flesh. It's the spirit as well, because we know that the Most High is the spirit. And in order to worship the Most High, you have to worship the Most High in spirit. And that is actually a verse. I'm just going to pull that up and let's see. So we see here in John 4:24, it says, Yah is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So we see how all of this is coming together. The wilderness, as we said, is also synonymous, connected with the mouth, utterance, a speech. And that speech is connected with Elohim or Elohim, but it's connected to Elohim. As we know, as it says in John 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. So that what it's saying, to put everything all together, is that this is also going to be the process and the beginning and fulfillment of our own theosis. And I talked a little bit again, like I said in my prior video, let's see, my YouTube channel, Haile Selassie is Yah, not Yeshua, disproving oneness and Trinitarian doctrines Rastafari revealed. As I said, you go to my channel, you can see I have several videos, but in this video I talk about the theosis of Yeshua. But here we see is the process whereby we will be undergoing ourselves, our own theosis, oneness with the Most High. So everything is going to start coming together. And it's all going to start with us as a people, obviously, becoming linked to that server, to that world, and interacting and communing with the Most High, becoming one with the Most High. This is really what's going to kick it off. People are going to have different stages of experiences, whether some people, have experiences whereby, they feel like they're undergoing an out of body experience. Some people hear voices. I mean, it's all different sorts of people going to be undergoing it in different ways. But the point is that, as it says, and I'm going to again touch on this verse again and again, because it's important that we realize this, because a lot of people, they don't fully understand it. It says in Acts 2:17, and it shall come to pass in the last days, saith Yah, I will pour out of my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall dream dreams. Now, when we look at Numbers 12:6, it says, and he said, hear now my words, if there be a prophet among you, I, Yah, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. So, prophets, when they prophesy, they're speaking the word of the Most High. Again, Elohim, the utterance. And it says here that Yah will make himself known unto us in a vision, and will speak unto us in a dream. So as we see, there is clearly, and like we had also read, that the Most High is a spirit, and for us to worship him in spirit and truth, we must be able to have access to this world. As I said, the world is not this world per se, this present world that we're looking at, right now, but I'm referring to, as it says, and I just want to use this because this is a pretty good definition. World being defined as a distinctive class of persons or their sphere of interest or activity. The Israelite world, and this spiritual Israelite world, whereby we can commune with the Most High. That utterance, that Elohim, that is our reaching that level is our theosis, our process of union with the Most High. And it is happening. It is coming. And as I said, for the people, we also will be entering into the land, the physical land of Israel, because as it says in Ezekiel 20:42, it says, and ye shall know that I am Yah when I shall bring you into the land of Israel, into the country for the which I lifted up mine hand to give to your fathers. So now, people, and like I said, everyone's going to have different experiences in different ways. As we can see right here, there may be some people that are probably going to be feeling these experiences, but still completely still uncertain until they actually reach the Holy Land, then knowing, okay, this presence is indeed of the Most High. So that's why I said there are people that are different spiritual levels, people that are communing with the Most High, know that they are communing with the Most High. Then you have people that are undergoing mystical experiences, but are taking a leap of faith because they're still uncertain if this is really Yah. So, they're taking that leap of faith because they're following the prophecies, and they're like, I know Ethiopia is the Holy Land. This is the land of Israel. This is where this is my second Exodus. And as I said before, it is male and female, both. Don't look at it as it says, man shall dream dreams, your old men shall dream dreams, and your young men shall see visions. When it's referring to man, as we know, we came from the line of Adam. Even when we look at the word, it refers to people. So male and female. So, like I said, I want to highlight this because this is very important. And as I said, feel free to contact me because as we are living in these last days, it is important for us to come together and go as a group. Start putting our resources together, start helping out the people that do not have resources but want to undergo the Exodus. We need to all be working together.